Hello, this is Maggie Glezar, and I want to thank you for watching this. I'm going to be cooking a segment for Shalom Atlanta, Cooking Jewishly. Welcome to my home. Hope you enjoy this recipe. I'm going to be filming Bobka, which I learned from my husband's grandmother back in Israel when she was alive. I was really lucky to have known her. She was a Holocaust survivor from Lithuania, and she's a fabulous cook, and she took me under her wing. This particular recipe is my husband's all-time favorite, and I'm really happy because I think I'm the only one in the family who actually learned the recipe and from her, and pretty authentically. She even gave me her mortar and pestle, which I have to assume she got in Israel at some point because they had lost everything in the Holocaust. But anybody who's from Eastern Europe will immediately recognize this. This is how the cinnamon is ground for the babka, and you'll see me do that a little later on. So this is a very special recipe, and I'm happy to be filming it to be able to teach other people how to make it. When I mix the slurry, I just add 1.5 cups of scalded milk. Scalded it for probably about 5 minutes in the microwave, and it's any kind of milk, whole milk, 2% skim, doesn't matter, whatever you prefer. And you're going to know that it's scalded when it forms a skin, it gets little bubbles on the side, starts to steam, and it's going to smell different. It's going to smell like cooked milk. And it's really important. The scalding kills or denatures a protein in the milk that affects the texture of the bread. If you don't scald it, the bread's going to be a lot coarser. It's not imperative that you scald it, it just makes a more finely textured bread. If you do scald it, you need to give it time to cool down to, if you're into thermometers, to about 110 degrees. But I just stick my finger in, if it's warm enough for me to comfortably put my finger in there, I know that it's ready, and it's ready to meet the yeast. If you do add it boiling hot, it will kill the yeast. And if you add milk that's too cold, the yeast will not start to ferment. So you do need to have it fairly warm. You don't need to take a thermometer to it, though. Your finger is a perfect thermometer. All right, so while we've got our little slurry, which is rehydrating and activating, I'm going to pound the cinnamon. And the truth is, to this recipe, is this is the secret ingredient. I don't use the cinnamon from the ground cinnamon from the store. I pound my own. It has a completely different aroma and look to it. If you don't have one of these ancient brass mortar and pestles, you could use a spice grinder, or you could use just whatever mortar and pestle you have, as long as it's really, really heavy, because the cinnamon is hard to pound. I have in my recipe that you can use ground cinnamon, and you just will not get the same aroma, I promise you. This is worth the step. When you hear people talking about their mothers making babka, they always talk about this step, how they remember this step. You just put it in the mortar and pestle and pound away. After 15 minutes of pounding, no, after just a few minutes, you're going to get it to about that state, and it's ready. You're not going to get it perfectly ground. It doesn't matter. It's good for the digestion. It's good for everything, actually. Cinnamon's the new wonder spice, supposedly. So the cinnamon gets mixed with 1 cup of sugar. I like the organic sugar. I don't use the white sugar anymore. So the organic sugar already has kind of a pretty tinge to it. Just mix it. This was 1 cup of organic sugar. You have those big chips in there, which are completely fine. And we're going to pull aside, where's my tablespoon? Here it is. A tablespoon of this. We're going to use that in the filling, and the rest is going to go in the dough. Okay, so this slurry, this is the yeast, flour, and the cooled scalded milk, has sat for about 10 minutes, and you can see that It's a little bit puffy and it has some air bubbles in it, so I know that the yeast is working. I can go ahead and finish the recipe. I'm going to add to this my salt, that's 1 1/4 teaspoons, and vanilla. There's a little trick. When you measure, don't measure into a bowl, measure to the side. In case you slip, you don't have to throw everything out. A tablespoon of vanilla, and I use the best quality vanilla I can buy, which is this Madagascar bourbon vanilla. You can buy this at Whole Foods or some of the better stores. It's so good. It really makes a rich aroma. This is the sugar mixed with the cinnamon. And I have 3 egg yolks here I'm adding. I have 10 tablespoons of butter. It's softened, unsalted butter. Just throw that in. And I'm going to mix it with this slurry until everything's very well mixed in. It's still like a batter, like a cake batter. Butter goes. The smell of this is incredible between the vanilla and the cinnamon. It's so good. You just blend it until it's pretty well mixed. I don't see any chunks of butter left. Get rid of my whisk. My whisk will not work anymore. And now I'm going to dump in the rest of the flour, pre-measured flour. This was, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned it, this is unbleached all-purpose flour. I'm just going to mix it. And if everything was right, this stage, where I'm mixing the flour and the dough's getting stiffer, I will not have to labor over this too much. Going to get all that flour incorporated, scraping the sides down, cutting it in, mixing it in. It's getting harder to mix. And when it gets really, really hard to mix, I just get my hands in there. And it's sticky. Look how sticky it is. It is so sticky right now. But it's kind of deceptive. So this is not something I could take on a table and knead at this point, but it's going to firm up so fast. So if you get to this point and it looks sticky like this and really mushy, it's right. You don't want to add any flour to this. This is exactly correct. And I'm just going to keep kind of hand mixing it. And the truth is, I could stop right now, but I enjoy this, so I'm going to keep going. But it really is ready at this point. It doesn't really need any more kneading. And as it sits, it firms up a lot. It completely firms up, and you just have to trust that that's going to happen. Even though this looks like sticky cookie dough right now, it will firm up. And it's just, I can feel it firming and sticking to my hands less as I'm kind of working it in the bowl. And just to show the transformation, I'll just pull it out here, get my dough scraper. Again, this is not necessary. You can, as soon as everything's mixed together and it's all homogeneous, you can stop and set it aside and put plastic wrap on and wait for it to rise. But again, I just enjoy doing this, so I'm going to pull it out of the bowl, and it is kneadable at this point. Need a really light touch if you're going to knead it, or your hands will be covered in dough. That's it. It's ready. The only way to get it to this point is to allow it to be really sticky when we first did it. If you measure your flour, if you weigh your flour, You can be that quick with it. Otherwise, if you don't measure your flour and you're using a cups and you're adding and you keep feeling, is it good? Is it firm enough? Is it too soft? You have to worry about all that if you don't weigh your flour. But if you weigh your flour, you can be this fast with it. And this dough's ready. So at this point, put the dough back in the bowl, scrape down the sides. When you put a dough to ferment, and I put plastic wrap on it to prevent the skin from forming. The plastic wrap needs to go just on top of the bowl. The bowl should be big enough to allow the dough plenty of room to rise and not touch the top of the plastic wrap. You don't want to push the plastic wrap up against the dough. It will stick. It will stick really badly. So just let that plastic wrap float on the top. And by the time if that dough does rise up high enough to touch it, it will sort of have formed a little skin on it and it won't stick to the plastic wrap. But you would just want to give it lots of room. Now it's going to rise for about 2 hours, maybe 3. It depends on the temperature of your kitchen. You can also, if you want to, you can do this the day before and stick it in the refrigerator right now and then go to shape it the next day. Or you can let it ferment right now and shape it and then put the shaped breads in the refrigerator for the next day. There's a lot of flexibility with this, with almost all yeast breads. Plenty of flexibility in what you do. Okay. All right, so I've got the dough is ready, fully risen, ready to be shaped. I have a little bit of flour. You don't need a whole lot. Actually, the dough right now, you can see, is not sticky at all. After all that stickiness, it really dries out a lot. I have my great-grandmother's rolling pin, which I just love. This is a family heirloom, and she used to make strudel out of it, but not Bobka. So I'm going to roll the dough out to a sort of triangle shape, because I don't want any of the filling escaping. And Savta Shabbat, who we called Savta Shabbat because she's a Savta, she's a grandmother, and my husband's family would always visit her on Shabbat. She'd cook a big Shabbat dinner. She would make very fancy twists out of this dough, which I never mastered. I just do this simple little roll. It's maybe not quite as beautiful, but it's really easy to do. And I don't roll the dough out too thin. It's still pretty thick. That's maybe, I don't know, 1/3 of an inch, 1/2 an inch thick. Not terribly thin. I don't put a lot of pressure on it. And I'm going to smear on this a filling that I made earlier. It is, I think it is 1 cup of sugar, 1/3 of a cup cocoa, and 1/2 a cup of melted butter. Terrible, terrible stuff. It's delicious. And, spread it on the spatula. Take it all the way to the end, but not to the sides or the wide end, just to the narrow end. Just an even layer of it. And my family loves it with chocolate chips, so I add chocolate chips to it. Savta Shabbat would do it with raisins. Some people like, some people don't like. I'm going to add the raisins. It's kind of a chunky filling, though, definitely. And because of this chunkiness, I don't like that dough to be too thin underneath, because all those chunky ingredients will break through. I'm going to start from the narrow end and roll it up to the wide end. And then I have some clean margins left that I can seal up the dough with. I pinch pretty hard to seal it. If those seals open, and they do sometimes, just can't be helped, but if they do open, the filling tends to spill out, and it's better if the filling stays in there. I'm just going to roll it lightly, not too hard, to even it. You can feel, as you roll it, you can feel those chunky ingredients wanting to poke through, so then I'm going to stop them. Okay, so here are 2 of the babkas, and they're ready to be baked. If I touch them, they are pretty puffy and they're not springing back real fast. These are a little tight still, but we're going to go ahead and bake them. I would prefer for them to be even a little puffier than this, but I think they'll be all right. Hope they'll be all right. I'm going to coat them with egg. This is just 1 egg beaten, and it'll give it a shiny finish. And the oven's nice and hot. And then I'm going to stipple it just to help so that it won't, hopefully, won't explode. These very well might crack because I think they need a little more time, but they'll still taste good. So I'm going to stick it into, I like to use, I'm going to use that upper shelf for about 20 minutes now. All right, so baking is finished. And they did burst in the middle because they weren't quite risen enough, but you know what? They'll be all right. Nobody will complain. So they really, truly need to cool before you can eat them. And the reason is that sugar inside there is molten and really hot. So let them cool, and then to serve them, just slice them or let people grab them. My husband loves for me to slice, to let it cool, slice them, and then he loves them frozen because they're pretty sweet. But however you enjoy eating them, they're going to be great.